Today we're looking at the weirdest Resident Evil bosses, but to do so implies we'll have to ask not just what is weird, but what is weird for Resident Evil. A hive mind blob of zombie leeches is pretty on brand for the IP and wouldn't turn too many heads for fans, but a mutant with a bald spot and built-in high heels just might. Our only criteria is that the encounter must be a boss level monster, one whose fight feels a bit off or mismatched from what you'd expect from the IP, be that due to how the fight itself is designed or the odd presentation of the enemy. Cool? When was the last time an RE boss weirded you out? Share right now in the comments. Neptune.
Emergency. Unknown source of pressure detected.
The sharks found in the Arclay Mansion were given a more significant segment in the RE1 remaster, in which Chris or Jill must enter the flooded Aqua Ring level. The fight is really more of a timed puzzle under threat of a giant shark breaking into the puzzle room without much interactivity from the monster. There are segments where the player must haul butt over water walkways to avoid getting eaten. While it was very evil scientist of Umbrella to keep a shark in their secret headquarters, I'll give them that, the creature is fairly unremarkable for Resident Evil standards. Doesn't even look that cool, and while giant spiders and even giant snakes I can wrap my head around, a mutant zombie shark is 1 degree farther into B-movie territory than they usually tread. Nyx. The visual designers of the Nyx wanted weird, and man, did they achieve weird. This monster blob is made up of the bodies of other zombies, has a butthole for a weak spot, and I think that's an elephant leg too. But for such an awesomely grotesque design, it has to be one of the least exciting set pieces in boss fight history. The Nyx is encountered on the highway after absorbing a tyrant that the player had previously been fleeing from. The stage never changes, it's a perfectly lit, calm night as the environment goes, there's nothing to interact with, no one else is here, there's hilariously zero urgency as you shoot into its immensely high health pool till it falls over. Great design, zero execution. Derek Simmons.
What would happen if I...
We're all used to the humanoid character who transforms into a hideous beast. It's the Resident Evil way, but Simmons's many forms, shown in RE6, are a ludicrous way of doing way too much. Like Buddy needed to pick a lane and stick with it. First he morphs into a saber-toothed tiger of all things, which chases Leon and Co atop a train. If a man becoming an animal wasn't weird on its own, he later takes to the train tracks and morphs into a type of centaur with a gun for a head. Once being cornered a little while later, the man becomes a bony T-Rex with a massive eyeball, until becoming his final form, and it's a giant housefly. What in the world kind of drugs was this guy on, because I want none of it. The various forms seem to have no thematic cohesion other than being a cast of various Hollywood monsters, but we've never seen a bioweapon with this amount of mutating variability, and for good reason. It's far too nonsensically weird. Gun centaur? Evelyn.
You're gonna be one of us. And then maybe you'll play nicely.
I'm not playing.
Evelyn has been a most welcome underlying antagonist and looming threat for the most recent new RE installments, but both times we fought her in a boss battle have been a little anticlimactic. In Biohazard, the final fight in the game has you dumping all of your remaining ammo into Evelyn as she becomes a giant face. There's not much interactivity, you just squeeze the triggers until the game decides you've done enough damage and the next segment plays. This was improved in RE8 Village, where the final boss was a traditional boss fight you had to beat, but the climactic battle within the Shadow of Rose DLC gave us a little X-Men superpower battle encounter with Evelyn as you hide behind furniture to block her mind waves and shoot back with, well, whatever Rose's power actually is. Neither battle has made Evelyn exceptionally scary or formidable, and while it's understandable Capcom doesn't want players to blast down Evelyn in her childlike form, it would have been neat to face her as a traditional monster we had to run from, or even if she ran at you in her old lady body. That would have been creepy.
Can't believe how useless I am. No wonder no one loves me.
Carla.
This frail shell of a society will collapse.
Carla's boss fight sees her melt into a puddle to infest a facility and basically transform into a monster house, to Ada's stoic disinterest. Her arms begin sticking out of the walls, mouths appear on the ceiling, and of course, big gross faces block the player's path. Ada can shoot cold explosive barrels Terminator 2 style, which blows holes in Carla big enough to pass through. Meanwhile, the transformed woman calls out to you about sucking your bones or whatever. It's a decent idea reminiscent of a mimic house, but the whole thing plays a little strange. Pieces of her spontaneously appear and spread across the level, and it feels less like a menacing, ever-present boss, and more like the designers wanted to add some new environment hazards, with this being the most convenient way.
Now you've destroyed your body. Hope this is what you wanted.
Heisenberg.
Don't come back!
Hear me out, the Heisenberg fight is more of a ridiculous one than a weird one, but looking at it out of context, with eyes unclouded, a family man with a bit of self-defense training piloting a scrap metal chainsaw robot as he flies through a tornado, while shooting at a Neil Newborn voiced Magneto monster, that's a little odd. The game does a good job of slowly building up to this moment, since we witness his powers early on, and by this point we've already faced a vampire dragon, a swamp monster, and that basement baby, but midway through the boss fight as you're zooming around his mecha form, it may dawn on you that instead of a mutant, you're fighting a Michael Bay level transformer. Yeah, it's epic, and we love Heisenberg dearly, but the whole thing is bonkers even compared to the other antics seen in Village.
That boulder punching asshole!
Helicopter. You want to get weird? How about no monster elements whatsoever? No mutations and no creature made of horrors beyond human comprehension, just a helicopter dogfight. This battle can play out in multiple ways. As Chris, you simply shoot explosives at it as it airdrops standard enemies to shoot, but as Ada, you must pilot a helicopter of your own and wait to squeeze the triggers until it dies. While the music is trying its best to sell this as a badass moment, it really is just a filler boss who would work in a Call of Duty campaign, much less so for a Resident Evil one. And no big twist where, ooh, the helicopter grows tentacles or something. When you look at a list of bosses, helicopter kinda sticks out.
All style, no substance. Typical.
Ivan Twins.
Oh, I almost forgot. Here are a few of my old friends I'd like to introduce you to.
Charmed.
The Ivan Twins came from a spin-off title, and it shows. To think all it takes is Mr. X's design being flipped to an all-white color scheme to make an imposing-looking villain into a silly one. That and the Ivans wear wrap-around-the-head sunglasses for extra sci-fi drip. During the Umbrella Chronicles, they are seen trying to defeat Wesker as they run directly at him and try to land punches like they are Captain Falcon. Since the player is in control of Wesker's point of view, the big boss fight lets us see his superhuman abilities in first person as the camera flies through the air like we're in a Matrix movie. Needless to say, even though the fight is a bit difficult, being that they are immune to all bullet damage except when hitting the tops of their heads, the fight has no dramatic tension, being that you'll continually run in a loop of the same rooms over and over and over and over until the shiny white trenchcoat men fall down dead. Deborah. Deborah may be the top contender for the most unintentionally uncomfortable boss fight. Characters that are meant to fan service a certain crowd are welcome when they have a cool design or interesting lore, like the vampires of RE Village. But Deborah, a sister of one of the protagonists, was given no character or backstory before turning into a booby monster. The tone of the fight is all over the place as Leon is shouting combat orders, Helena is sobbing about her sister, Ada is making wise remarks, and Deborah is feeling up her new self. The player has to traverse through a wooden fort by swinging on ropes like an action hero, leading to a minecart riding segment. The whole thing goes on way too long, like 20 minutes too long, and is a total miss for appealing to the thirsty crowd.
Please, please don't hurt her!
Morpheus. Morpheus, the man obsessed with beauty, is the final boss of the Dead Aim spin-off title, and while the creature design isn't inherently a bad one, it would be right at home in something like Soul Calibur, Resident Evil, where the mutants almost always look like giant horrendous meatballs, causes it to not quite jive. Within the boss fight itself, you are practically given a laser rifle, as the high-heeled creature backflips and shoots electricity at you. The whole setup gives the battle a far more sci-fi feel than survival horror. There's also something to be said if this was negative trans representation too, since the monster form resembling a woman, while the human form being a man, was originally made as a joke according to the original designers. But we'll leave that up to you to decide. What did you think? What weird boss did I miss? I mean, like the House Beneviento baby was weird, but it's kind of the weird you want or you're expecting, you know? Just me? Like the video and drop a subscribe for more Resident Evil. Have a good one.